Oh, yeah, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome back, Call to the Pin HQ, fastest show on MLB, absolutely anywhere. With your host, the big dude with the big mouth from the Big Apple, Big Johnny Stud, coming to you worldwide from Brooklyn, New York, as always. Do I have to tell you there's a special guest up in the chair? The man, the myth, the legend. You know, I made this joke the first time I met this man. I've been called a GOAT. If I'm a GOAT, he is the GD Shepherd. It's our man, Rob Friedman at Pitching Ninja, living legend. Rob, happy Friday. How are you, dude?
You have me fired up, my man. Like, I can't do any better than that.
All right. No, you don't need to. You be the brains. You be the beard. You know, you be everything else. Rob, before we get into it, we're going to rip the cord on what literally, I'm not kidding, it's the fastest show in MLB, absolutely anywhere. But we got to just hat tip you really quick because I've always really, I followed your work. I'm a fan. I look up to you. But in a content creation space, I've always really, flattering myself, calling myself a part of your kind of coaching tree, but you've kind of cut your own way in this space that I don't want to say they didn't want us, but I don't know if they really wanted us. And you kicked that door wide open. And that emblem that you're wearing is really symbolic of, man, the push that you've made for analytics and the regular Joe to understand things. Really, Rob, you've put your thumbprint on the game of baseball, and I thank you. So, do you have anything to say about that? It's pretty flattering.
It's very flattering. I don't know that I can touch that. Like, that's fantastic to hear. Brought a little tear to my eye.
No, but you're the man. Come on, it's your own brand. Think about it. It's the truth, dude. It's the truth. You know, right? You started, right? It's a basement thing. And now the players want to come to you before they go to MLB Network, dude, because you care about them. You were listening to them, right? You weren't trying to browbeat them. And I'm telling you, man, it's really great, the moves that you've made in the space for, kind of a new age, really,
Yeah, I'm glad that comes through because that's kind of what I'm about. Like, I don't want to tear people down. I want to find out what makes them tick and maybe pass the game on to a next generation of fans and help them understand, what's going on and the beauty of pitching, right?
Yeah. Again, this would be a show on top of a show for a show of, you must be the only person that mashes their teeth worse than I do when these broadcasters start. Man, it's not even like they don't understand it, which I get. I don't understand everything. You ask to learn, but they actively demean the use of analytics, like things that we know matter. And again, I'm not like Mr. Correlation. Oh, R squared, everybody, R squared. Hitting the ball hard is directly correlated to slugging percentage, which matters. We want to know exit velocity. We also know when combined with lift, it matters. And we also know when you combine it with pull power, that really, really, really matters. That's how you hit home runs in the big leagues, boys. And they make fun of it. Rob, they're out there making fun of us. And so I know that you're as nice as you are, it's got to kill you, right? Just really quick before we dive into it.
Yeah, and I want to kind of explain why it actually works in with their overall mentality. Like, overall, it used to be, hey, you're doing all the small things right. You hit the ball hard. That's great. Like, it'll drop for you. But then when you have stats to back it up, somehow it can be demeaned. Like, you're just putting stats behind what had been baseball axioms anyway. Hey, striking people out is good. It's better than putting the ball in play generally. I heard Chipper say that last night, actually. He was like, the reason why Smoltz was so successful in the postseason is because he struck people out. People didn't put the ball in play. So it's good to hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes the numbers intimidate people.
All right, so now we're going to do a lot of that. Again, today, everybody, if you want the more general betting stuff, I got you. Check out the Twitter link. You can hit me up afterwards, and we'll do money lines and all that good stuff. Today, we want to focus on the pitching. And again, when we have somebody like Rob in the chair, we want to try and squeeze some of that goodness out of him. So even before we hit the actual board, because I've seen, Rob, you've been kind of made a little bit of a name for betting also, which is, I really like watching people, kind of come into my space and do it smart and responsibly. So right off the bat, when you look at pitching props, I notice, that's your specialty. It makes sense. Something we talk about, finding a specialization and trying to focus on that. You can't be a master of every bet on the board. And that's a mistake people make. Who's going to win, plus totals, and hit props and base props, out props. You want to kind of streamline it. I think you do a very good job of that. So right off the bat, would you say when you're looking at a pitcher prop, if it's a scale, is it more the pitcher or the hitters? Like when we're talking striking out, right? Because we often talk about this. There are pitchers that induce whiffs, and then there are teams that kind of chase and swing and miss, right? So who are you looking at first? Is it the swing and miss pitcher or the swing and miss hitters?
So I start off by narrowing down guys that I feel are hot, at least from what I've seen. Like, I watch every single game. Like I watch every pitcher and try to figure out what makes them tick. And I try to figure out who I feel is on an upswing, who I feel has been dominant recently, and then look at the matchups. I mean, I have to look at who they're facing. I start with the pitcher, but then look at what teams have swing and miss, and specifically against that pitcher, and look at track records kind of recently and not. But it's actually fun to get into an area where maybe, my brother was the gambler in the family. My brother was started Full Tilt Poker. I don't know if you remember. That's
really wow.
Yeah, has a gold bracelet from the World Series of Poker and all of that. So yeah, I don't go into that space, but we did do. We were a statistics family, and I try to break it out but also use some touch to it.
Okay, so this is gonna be great because we're going to try and add some nuance to it. Again, this is what I do. For all the betting content out there. I don't know, Rob. I just got to be different. So everyone out there is teaching people how to win. I said I'm going to teach people how to lose. And I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but it really is the truth. Winning and gambling is very easy. You take the money and you put it in your pocket, right? And you go back to your business. Losing, they don't really talk about it as much. What do you do? How do you handle it? How much did you lose? How do you risk that? Like, should you redeposit? Should you keep going live? You know what I mean? Should you change your process? And that's the stuff we like to talk about here. And I think I try to have it manifest in the work being, we like to say the mainstream looks at K percentage and walk percentage. And we like to build the tapestry. Let's get right into it. This will be the first one. Merrill Kelly, he has kind of really performed at a much higher level than we thought. 2.8 ERA, 108 whip, all the indicators in place. But to the disciplinary basket, the K walk stuff we're looking at today. So 27.5 K, which seems really good on the back of a 12.5 swinging strike, 27 whiff, all pretty good. 37 chase rate, those check out. So does the zone contact at 85. However, I see the ball rate, and this is something I've been using. Ball percentage opposed to using walk percentage, because you see the double-digit walk rate, and that's why I mentioned Kelly. I heard people targeting the double-digit walk rates, but I don't know if that's really there. The ball rate is down at 36, which is right around average. And then, like I mentioned, all the other traits, he induces chases and can win inside the zone. So again, is it as simple as, I call that bad chalk? Like I've been hearing talk about people looking for Kelly to go over the walks. I'm kind of seeing more of a control guy, even with the 10% walk rate. What do you think, man?
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think he's got some solid command. I think he's one of the more overlooked pitchers in the game too. Like he's turned it on recently as far as upping his Ks. And I kind of like him tonight too. Yeah,
I mean, it's funny that you mentioned recency. And again, in this thing of ours with statistics, we're always kind of taught more stats better than less stats. And I'm not here to say that small samples rule, but, and Eno Saris at The Athletic has actually kind of validated this. And again, I try to be very careful. Again, correlation is not always causation. But he showed some pretty strong correlations, predictive strength in, I think he called it the last 400 pitches. So that really equates to about 30 days, which is funny. So I thought it was interesting that you said that without us having mentioned that before. And I've been kind of coming around more to the more recent track record. But it's because, Robin, I wonder if you agree, because a pitcher can change his trajectory a lot quicker than a hitter, right? We want static from a hitter. We want the same and then the large sample. But a pitcher, if he changes an arm angle or adds a sweeper or adds a mile an hour or, extension, there's so many things that they can do, change a shape, then I feel like that pitcher going forward is different than the one we may have been looking at. What would you say to that?
I don't disagree at all. And that is one of my kind of almost a gut feel for the game, like having watched all these pitchers over and over again. you can tell when a guy, the little peaks and valleys you have during the season. It could be injuries. It could be changing pitch mix. Could be the league catching up to the guy for a little bit. And then the cat and mouse game where the pitcher changes sequencing or something. It definitely happens. I haven't put any numbers to it. It's good that Eno has, because Eno's a bright dude.
Yeah.
And I definitely, I'm glad that it matches kind of with my less analytical approach on it, which is more of my tweet test, my eye test and all that.
Well, I think, and again, Rob, because you are so humble. Yes, it's different, but that does not make it worse, because there is something that he said to it. And I don't know if people notice this. He's on the docket today, Tyler Glass now. I know you had an interview with him, which again, I just adore. That it's not just like, oh, Rob gets pictures and they do some anodyne nonsense. You guys are like hashing it out. This is what I would imagine the talk in the clubhouse sounds like. The talk in the bar after the game sounds like. I mean, and long story short, people, you should really check out Rob's interview with Glass now. But not to bury the lead, it sounds like Tampa's, in particular, the Tampa Bay Rays, part of their success is, guys, stop trying to be so precise. Look, if you have the stuff, not to say aim for the middle and let it rip. Stop trying to nail it on a dime. Throw a strike, right, and let the ball do the work. So could you talk to us about that? About this, right? This is different than fastball first, right? Always, and I told you talk about this kind of bucking up against what was, gosh, we're talking about 100 years, right, of this kind of set in stone. You can't throw off speed up, Rob. You can't start with a slider, Rob. You can't do it. And now these are the things thought of as being very sharp. So could you talk to us about the new wave, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's brilliant. I mean, logically, it kind of makes sense, right? You throw your best stuff more often. If you have dominant stuff, you don't have to be fun. Like, who's to say if you hit your spot, that spot was actually the best spot, period. Number two, if you make a pitcher think that he only has one spot to throw to, otherwise the hitter's gonna, kill him. You take away the edge from the pitcher. Like, you want to, as a pitcher, you want to attack. And if you think that you have to be that fine with it, then you start second guessing yourself, as well as very few pitchers in baseball, especially hard throwing guys or guys with wicked stuff, are able to put it on a dime. Like, that's just not a thing. We pretend that it is. So giving the pitchers the freedom to throw what they're comfortable with and what they feel is their best pitch more often, and just attack down the middle. You're never going to throw it down the middle. Like, these guys are, they're not perfect. And especially a guy like Glass now, big 6'8" frame, lots of moving pieces, nasty as anything. Aim down the middle. Throw the actual same conviction. Snell talked about that too recently. Like, yes. He doesn't care. Like,
he needs a little more work on the control end.
Yeah, exactly. But he does throw. He throws with the same conviction. His curveball, his slider, his fastball, and his changeup, and he thinks the hitters are just looking at his arm speed, and they're going to make a decision on what to swing at. And I think a lot of that is true. So I 100%. I love the strategy. I love the fact that we're unpacking hundreds of years of baseball strategy. Like, hit your spot. Stay in the zone. Command is what matters, whatever. And turning it on its head. You can't throw breaking stuff up in the zone. Well, you can.
Yeah.
You won't want to hang it. But if you're throwing a true curveball at the top of the zone, that's part of the strike zone, and hitters will give up on it, and it ends up being in the zone.
I was fortunate enough to have Ethan Katz in the chair maybe about a year and a half ago. He's a pitching coach with the White Sox. I was lucky enough to FTN hooked me up with him, and we had a conversation. Me, like, I don't think he was ready. I don't think he was quite ready for it, to be honest. Right? He's probably done a bunch of interviews where I was like, and I hit him with the wrecking ball, because again, I wanted every bit of I could get out of it. And I directly asked him about that, and he's kind of like a very kind of mellow, chill dude. But what I could tell, I was getting that passion out of him, and he was talking about that very kind of directly. And it wasn't to knock any of his pitchers, and he was very clear about that. Right? That's not what we're doing. But he's saying even the guy with the best control is not going to hit the X in the center of the plate. So tell the guy with the bad control to throw the ball down the middle, which is absolutely counterintuitive to, again, 10 decades of training of the guy that has trouble control. You would tell him, try and fade it up because you don't want to miss middle. You're always missing middle. So fade it to the side, fade it down. When it was just relax, think of the zone in not being so specific in kind of areas, right? And let your stuff speak for itself.
Yeah, interesting. This ties in. I was watching a Braves broadcast last night, and they had Smoltz and Glavine on, and they were talking about facing Tony Gwynn. And I think they talked about like maybe it's Mike Bilecki, somebody like that. Um, his strategy was just to throw the ball down the middle against Gwynn because Gwynn knew, you throw it outside, he's going oppo. Throw it down the middle, he's gonna, if you give him something down the middle, he doesn't know what to do with it. So he ends up hitting a ball right at second base. And there is something to how well do pitchers actually hit their spots? What do hitters expect? And hitters maybe think too much of pitchers. Pitchers think too much of hitters, and just attack. Just it's a competition, and it's a battle between two athletes.
Yeah, man, that was so good. All right, now let's do a little bit of betting. I'm going to keep it focused. Generally, Rob, we do like every game and all this stuff. You know what? I got to tailor to what matters, what we're going to get the most out of. So I do have a couple of props. I have a couple of walk and K props. So let's look at one and let's show people kind of how we construct them and stuff. So one I have right off the bat is somebody that I really liked coming into the season. Again, for us fantasy heads out there, I think the best place to look for goodness is like the 6th or 7th starter on a club. They seem to have the best stuff and just don't get the opportunity. And I'm looking at Cutter Crawford right now in the Boston Red Sox. So Crawford, again, if you're into Eno's stuff model, his stuff plus a fastball through the roof. Now, again, bro, I don't like to use people's black box stuff. So not saying I was trying to reverse engineer it, but I was just trying to look for what physical elements kind of stuck out. And it turns out, Crawford really does everything. Small handful of guys that can have, let's call it a foot or less of vertical move, observe of gravity, and not induced. I use observe because that's what's on Savant. With more than double digit of arm side run, we're talking about one of the best fastballs in baseball. I like to be, and this is funny again, like I'm super sharp, but people look at K props. So when the public goes at something, we have to remember, right, betting is a scale. The books want to make money, but they won't kind of move the fulcrum on the scale to kind of balance things out. In general, again, you get that argument, depends on the book and the specialty book, whatever, but that's generalizing it. So what does that mean, Rob? If everyone's betting K's and going over with the juice, I like to bet unders on things. And it's not fun. No one really likes it. So how about this one? I got Garrett Whitlock under 1.5 walks on the season, 4.5% walk rate. We love that. 33% ball rate. That's as low as she goes. Only 1/3 of his pitches are balls. Remember, some are intended to be balls. 73.5 first strike. So he's getting up and getting ahead against my Yankees, who right now, from a disciplinary standpoint, really not looking very good. But bottom 3 in walks, last 500 plate appearances, 5.5% walk rate. For me, it's easy as pie. Whitlock just doesn't really walk batters. He actually walked 2 Rays in the last outing, but it had been a month since he's done that. So when I see these under props that you get like single plays right around, this one I think was like -115. Jay actually has it up, everyone. You can get with betstamp.app/call to the pen. I mean, listen, it's the easiest sale I could give. If you go into a store and you want a can of soda and it's $1 on one shelf and $1.05 on another shelf, you buy the one that's $1, and after a while, you have enough to get a free soda. So there's your advertisement for Betstamp. So Rob, I'm going under 1.5 walk props. That's my first bet. Talk about boring. I'm going to be rooting for ground outs, right? And that's what is the world coming, right? What is the world coming to? Until they allow us to bet on Framber Valdez ground out props, this is what I'll be doing. Do you have a prop for us today?
Yeah, I do. I love that. Do you want to go into the daily strikeout prop bet, or do you want to go?
Listen, yeah. We could link it all. Yeah, if you have somebody that connects people, what he's talking about, and again, Rob, in the modesty, is hooked up all the way to the top. I mentioned the FanDuel has this great, but they're not behind this right now, but I love to back products that I believe in. And FanDuel, when you get a full slate, it's right on the front page. Like, they don't hide it like some books do. You click the MLB thing, it's under daily strikeout props and under daily strikeout leader. And we like to build these tickets, Rob, where, if anybody hits, like, let's say 5 pitchers, you put $1 on each, let's say, and if anybody hits, you probably did pretty well depending on the odds. So I have my eye on a couple. Who goes to talk to me, man? I'm telling you.
Yeah, well, who do you have your eye? Because number one, I love this market. It's probably my favorite. I'm trying to get FanDuel to name it after, like the Pitching Ninja Daily K prop.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yes.
Right? They have to, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is and you know what's funny? I love, we're in this age of like information and betting where now we got a lot of. I mean, you probably see it too. I'm not saying you care, but where the old guard of bettors, like these old kind of crusty handicapping bettors, are telling you that you can't create content. You have to do it a certain way because, and my argument, I talk to these people, you know what I mean? Like I'm physically in there saying like, there is room to play parlays if you're responsible. Again, I teach people how to lose, okay? Because I lose. I'm a bettor and I lose, but I don't deposit because I properly manage my risk. I mean, like, again, I was a very good trader and it made me a very good bettor because you have to be super disciplined and like understand that there are some days you're going to get walloped and you're going to get up early with a smile on your face, have your cold brew, do whatever you normally do, and get back in the office, right in the lab, in the war room, and, you know, do your thing. So everybody, hit us, Rob. Hit us.
Oh, no. I totally agree with you. And it's actually one of the reasons why this year I always hear negative stuff on parlays. I've been doing a parlay every day for the entire season just to see if somebody that watches as much baseball as I do and watches as much pitching specifically as I do, how I would fare. And then, you know, see if I can beat the house or not. And try to give that along and track it during the year too, and let people know. So that's one of those things that I'm doing this on purpose, where I know parlays, you know, the odds are not necessarily in your favor on this. There's one of those more profitable items for the house, but I like it. I have fun with it. I'm very controlled about how much.
Oh my God, fun! You can't have fun. There's no fun allowed in betting. Didn't you know that? Didn't you know there's no fun allowed? And that's exactly what I told this. And I love this guy. I have so much respect for him. I said, dude, you never left an amusement park with more money than you had before you got in there. You never left a restaurant with more money. You never left a movie theater with more money. That's not how entertainment works. So providing you're giving people a responsible pathway to enjoy it, dude, go have fun, man. It's so ridiculous. Could you imagine being like, that's what these people say, you know, movies used to cost $3, now they're $18. And if you're going to the movies, you're losing EV, and that's ridiculous. Dude, we don't want to watch it on our phone in black and white. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to have some fun. You nailed it, Rob. Thank you so much.
You just nailed that. Yes, succinctly, you just described what my philosophy is. Like, I bet on things that I'm going to watch, I'm going to enjoy to watch. And it gives me a little bit of, you know, buy-in, but not do it stupidly. I'm not throwing, you know.
Heavens to Betsy.
Yeah, exactly. It's about fun.
So you want me to lead on the K? All right, we can lead on the K. Get this one. And again, these are, for me, what is so appealing about, you know, these props are the odds. And again, it lets you get exposure. People. Somebody mentioned it in the chat. It's Forest Sports, Super Sharp, one of the capitals of my crew here, that we build them like golf tickets. That let's say you bet $100 on a bet. This is like $1 or $2, and you bet a few of them. And again, you hope if you hit one, the whole venture is profitable, and you could do it sustained, right? You're not going in your wallet for this. This is like a purely entertainment thing. So what's fun about these are the odds that some of them allow you. And I'm telling you, to be honest, it's really kind of crazy that there's 15 games, only 30 pitchers. I got 5 different pitchers going off at 150 to 1. I mean, granted, the odds of, you know, Hauser coming through or Gomber coming through is probably 0. But the fact that they're out there is something. So how about someone that might actually do it? So I mentioned 30 teams. How about Yusei Kikuchi, 31 to 1? Okay, we know, yeah, it's been rough. I mean, the indicators are okay. Sierra at 4.25, but again, we're just focused on strikeout. So we need him to have the good stuff. He's got 125 stuff plus in a fastball. Yes, the K rate is down to 22.9, but again, let's build the tapestry, Rob. 12.7 swinging strike, 28 whiff, 32 chase, 83 in zone contact. That's the makings of a strikeout, Rob. That, you know what I mean? Like, again, you're going to need him to be sharp and all of that. But when we flip the matrix now on its head, Minnesota Twins last 500 plate appearances. Dead last in strikeouts, Rob, 29.6%. Bottom 8 in swinging strike rate, 12%. Also, bottom 3 in zone contact, what we're going to need, right? Because the problem with Kikuchi is he challenges your middle, and sometimes some of those balls have yet to land. So I'm feeling really good about a 31 to 1 piece of a pie here, and I don't want to be told that we can't have fun enjoying that. So one of the pieces, as we name them, our awesome producer Jay on the 1s and 2s, he kind of puts them in the back. Don't worry, we'll put this little basket together at the end. So that's my first pick is Yusei Kikuchi, who, hey, could get 11 strikeouts today against a Twins team that's really struggling with contact.
I think that's a great reach pick. Like, why not? I mean, you're not saying that this is going to happen and, oh boy, let's kick John if it doesn't. You're saying, you're right. Like you're saying,
we should kick him anyway.
But a 31 to 1 shot. That means it's not likely to happen, but can it happen? I can see a situation where it happens, especially with that matchup. I mean, I was thinking the same thing with Merrill Kelly today. It was one of those guys that jumped out at me that, he's he had a 10K game recently. Could he
Yeah.
have bigger than that against the Tigers? Sure. I mean, yes, Shohei's the favorite today. Absolutely. And deservedly so in the market because he's apt to have a big game. But can somebody beat that? Sure. And it's 21. Last I looked, Kelly was 21-1.
Yep.
And
Great odds.
yeah, I mean, heck, more likely than not going to win. Is it possible to win? Yeah, it is. And I definitely would get that.
I can't help it, Rob. I'm sorry to cut you. I can't help
Yeah.
it. Your style, your delivery style is another part of why people gravitate towards you, right? You're it's almost like apologetic in a way because you're so honest. And again, that's why people have always kind of come to my work for that. But I noticed that you kind of have that same thing. It's partly being a good guy, but the other part is usually you care, right? You're not. I think what happens in this space also is there are some of those misleaders, right, in the creation space, trying to tell people we've got this 1,000,000-to-1 and you're going to be flying a private jet, and meanwhile we're not. That's not what we're talking about.
No, and part of it is the lawyer in me too. Like I always see both sides, right? Like I'm a math guy who is also a lawyer, and I'm sitting there going,
"You must be fun at parties."
Well, the reason why I don't do that anymore is because I would rather not. Like my personality doesn't necessarily jibe with what I was doing. But yeah, like I have to explain it. I have to be logical about it, but also explain to people that, dude, I get it. It's not likely to happen, which is why you're getting odds on this thing. If it was likely to happen, we'd be in the minus territory.
Well, I'll tell you what, we mentioned, I brought up the Merrill Kelly strikeout stuff. It's the underpinnings are really good. He's had a step forward. And at the same time, the Detroit matchup is pretty good. I mean, first of all, they have a 175 team batting average last 500 plate appearances. Yikes. After Riley Green went, they were still looking like they were starting to piece it together. I'm a big Riley Green guy, so he's a big fantasy guy for me. I was following him pretty closely. He was starting to go, and it's funny how that stuff happens in offense. Again, something that you and I might talk about, the spreadsheet, people might not. That a rising tide sometimes lifts all ships, right? Bad teams score runs. And sometimes the worst team is the best team for a week. Just how the game goes. Yeah. So I like to talk of these teams and stuff in terms of sine waves, Rob. Worst teams have longer, flatter bottoms, and shorter peaks and all that stuff. But it's kind of helped me understand that, similar to what you said about, now I'm not a lawyer, but the trader part of me says that, wait a minute, just because we have a good number, it may be a downtrend, right? I talk about this when people try and quantify hot hitters, which is funny. The data scientists will tell you they don't exist. I would say they do exist because you're defining it improperly. Like a data scientist says, if you hit a barrel yesterday, it's not as likely you hit it tomorrow. But that's not what we're saying. You're putting everybody in the same bin. Everybody's different. And whatever. Okay, let's whatever. There's going to be a couple
no,
of
I feel you. I totally agree.
Anyway, all right. Let's get another strikeout guy. So the Detroit matchup is actually in your favor. Again, I'm going to go matchup driven on my next one as well. Now, this is more of on the hitter side. So it's Panic at the Italian Disco, Anthony Discofani. And now the strikeout stuff has not really been there. He does have a 26 CSW. So when the off-speed stuff is working, he has locked up hitters. He pitches a bit to contact, a bit more than we'd be looking for. But also, I think that's reflected in the odds. He's another long shot. Discofani is 121. He's 121. So before you string me up, the reason why we're going after him, Chicago Cubs really, really undisciplined at the dish. And again, rising tide, what's the opposite, right? The lower tide has sunk a few boats. Ian Happ, when they lost Bellinger and then Happ kind of went in the tank, I think he may be hurt. I don't like to speak for players. That whole offense is circling the drain. So that's another one. It's hard to deny the strikeout numbers. 29.5% strikeout rate as a team. 11 swinging strike, 31 chase, 82 in-zone contact. So give me a piece of Discofani at 120-1. I'm going to put $1 on it. I'm going to put $1 on Anthony Discofani at 120-1 to strike out. What are we going to need, Rob? 11 strikeouts, probably 10, 11, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing that. Touching 12 potentially if someone can.
Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to get I don't know if I'm going to get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be because – again, I think Shohei's matchup is favorable today, which is going to, but you never know. It's one of those things. Is it 120-1 worth of a chance? I agree with you on
Like I said, just because we build these baskets,
it doesn't mean it's right.
Right. It's just part of the ticket.
Yeah, if you want to know who I think is going to have the most case today, it's
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani. Like I think it's a great matchup for him. I like him in a prime battle against Castillo. I think he raises his game. He's one of those guys, and I think he just changes his mix every once in a while. So I can definitely see, I can make the case for that really easy. But is that who I'm picking today? It's too like
the Seattle side is really tough too. They've struggled as well. But yeah, I think you make a really good point about like here's a great example. Here's how we can actually apply this for the betting degens. Shohei Ohtani is plus 240 in this market that Rob and I keep referring to. Just bet his strikeout prop. And in fact, I know I don't have it on offhand. I know for a fact you can find an alt prop at a better price that will be lower than it will take to win this thing. So the lesson here, people, and I talk about this with hitter props sometimes, people get in such a rush to bet hitter props, Rob. Sometimes the very same site will have over one base hit and over one total base. A total base is a hit. You can't get on a walk. And they're different prices. And people don't look. They don't look at both the hit and the total base. And it might be a tremendous difference. Again, in reality, it might only be $1 or $2, but in our terms and percentage-wise, it might be 25%, which is a tremendous deal. So, all right, let's see. Who else? I know I have another one. I had another walk one. And again, these are just so boring, but I keep cashing these bets. And at the end of the day, like that's kind of
that's important too. And it depends what you get off on. Like for me, I can't feature walks on my Twitter account. It's just not exciting, or like soft contact doesn't really play.
Right.
But winning money plays. And if you're looking,
that's kind of it. So, all right, we're going back. And this is another one. I have, people hear bad teams and kind of boring pitchers, and it's very easy to look past these guys. I'm under Adrian Hauser, 1.5 walks. Give me Adrian Hauser, control freak. First of all, he's just coming off like the game of his life. So I don't know if he's going to dominate. But again, to these unders, if you happen to, and I never wish injury, but if a pitcher gets injured, you win. And if a pitcher gets run out of the building, you win, right? So that kind of happens sometimes, where you run a guy for under strikeout props, and he gives up 6 runs in the first, just run out of the building, and you cash the bet, and you don't feel any worse about it. So Hauser, again, we know the swing and miss stuff's not there, but 5% walk rate on the year. Love that. 91% in zone contact. So like he's not fooling anybody. He's not fooling anybody. One of the lowest whiff rates in the big leagues at 16%. I mean, that's as low as it gets. Now, I know people hear the Oakland matchup, right? Because that's what it is, Oakland. But Oakland pretty disciplined at the dish. And I know people don't give these bad teams any credit, right? We're so busy LOLing them to death. But Oakland Athletics, last 500 plate appearances, they're top 5 in walk rate. They're also top 5 in chase rate. That number is 29%, which maybe you might not expect from a kind of a young and inexperienced team. I don't like to talk about good and bad. These guys are pro athletes. They're all awesome, right? And they do work that allows me to do my work. So I like them, right? But we can say that they're patient or impatient, right? Those are objective. The A's, man, I love that offense. That bullpen must make you wretched at night.
They're a hard team for me to feature, I got to admit.
No pitching,
yeah, it's the pitching part, but they've also been surprisingly competitive over the last little stretch. And I've learned my lesson from picking against them that it's not as easy as you think. And
you should check with us first. Yeah. You should check with us first. We are known. This is our thing. We are known. We bet on the Oakland first 5 team total. We bet on the Washington first 5 team total because people, the fantasy crowd, Rob, they can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. Oakland is an easy matchup. People can't help themselves. And I'm not saying Oakland is not an easy matchup, but you got to do the wave, right? This is where we do the wave theory, man. That's where John's wave theory, right? That's where the wave theory comes in. There are times to avoid these teams that they just kind of look great. Right now, the Reds are playing out of their minds right now. They're a pretty good example. Again, even something like the A's, you just kind of people expect the A's to just kind of, they're going to give up, right? They're going to give up and strike out 1,000 times. Not necessarily the case. Esteury Ruiz and, Rooker's been down but not out, and Noda. This is just going to be exciting. Anyway, you got any other pitching stuff for us today?
Let me see. I guess my parlay of the day.
Oh, right. Can you share it?
Yeah. I put it out there this morning. It's I'm taking Kelly. I'm taking Ohtani, 8Ks or more. And then I expect Castillo to similarly, my logic on Ohtani, I think he'll have a big game as well. And I have him for 7Ks or more. So that's an all prop. So I got Kelly for 7, Castillo for 7, and Ohtani for 8.
Now, when you bet these lines, again, this is what I like to ask people. One of our a good friend of mine is in the comment section, Matt Williams for Game Day. He's very super sharp. You know what I mean? Like when you see people and you go, wow, that's sharp. I notice he'll move, and not say he'll move it, but he'll, again, just be open to alt. I meant you when you said alt props, it made the little light bulb go off. Sometimes I find myself kind of stuck in the land of the standard.
Yeah.
And now, do you like that where you kind of, I guess there's two ways to do it, where you could kind of, not to say shoot the moon, but right, you could go for the higher odd. Do you find yourself turning down the risk to parlay?
Yeah, sometimes it honestly, it's very pitcher specific to me and looking at kind of just individual matchups. But yeah, I mean, I generally function in that market. I like it. It gives me more control over what I want to bet more specifically. Like I can look and say, do I really, based on what I see, do I expect the pitcher to hit this number or this number? So I'm less tied to like a single over under type thing.
Right. Gotcha. All right. I got one. Now, this one I posted because, I had Pitching Ninja coming in. I had to make sure I was doing my due diligence. So I have a over walk prop. These are kind of fun to watch. Also. You find yourself rooting for the most.
I have never looked at the walk market very much, and I love this. Like
part of my kind of shtick, but the real part of it is I really am very malleable. And for all the kind of teaching that I do, and I know, and I hate it sometimes to be kind of professorial all the time. I'm a sponge. Like I try and gain, to be porous and to gain from the students also. It means so much to me because that's where the best ideas come from. Again, it's being a little arrogant because I'm like, well, someone's smart enough to follow me. Who knows how smart? Because think about how smart they must be. Anyway. But you see these people kind of rock these walk props. And you go, wait, hold on. Wait, what? And some of them are like some of them are just outrageous. So, for example, I didn't mention the pricing. The Hauser prop is even money. Oh. That's awesome. That's a great play. I mean, this guy will go out. He's only walking 2 batters. I don't know, 1 out of 5 games, 1 out of 6 games, and again, you could get run. So it's not even like where again the standards for over Ks, they're all very juiced up. And I think you do a good job of pairing them. I with the parlay haters. Yeah. Sometimes rather than pay juice twice, like especially if you have a pair, if you pay juice twice and you hit 1 of 2, you're a loser.
Yep.
So if you parlay and you hit 1 of 2, you're a loser. But if you parlay and risk a lot less, you're less of a loser than if you hit 1 of 2 in the other direction. And that's kind of been the driving. It sounds so like caveman analysis, but like that's been the driving force for my pushback against these parlays when they're juiced up. I never recommend, like if something like the Hauser prop, you should not be parlaying plus 100 plays. I think if you can get plus money, you should play it straight. That's just me. So let's do a little parlaying. Jay Bird, let's get some walk props up. First up, it's Dylan. Stop, cease, and desist. As much as I like him, and I spoke to Katz, but I buried my thing with cease. He's known to be a little bit wild. Walk rate up near 11. The ball rate up over 38%. Something I also like to look at again. Part of it, I put out these really cool advanced pitching sheets every day. You get them on my pin tweet or whatever, and it's foul ball rate also. And now I'm not sure exactly what I'm curious. I'm curious of your take on this. I'm not sure how I deduce foul ball rate, but I do know that it's really creating a part of the inefficiency for Cease. That it's, and again, I don't know if it's sticky, which means maybe he's going to bounce back. But I feel like that's been the thing that's really killing it. He's always walked batters, Rob. If you're going to strike out 35% of them, I don't care. But that's not been the case. The K rate now down to 24. There's, everything just down. The whiff rate, 27% whiff rate is not bad. But it's not what you'd expect from C. Same thing, 11-9 swing and strike. So he's not inducing chases. So his walk prop is at over 1.5. I feel bad because I really do tend to like Dylan Cease.
He's a great dude.
I also feel like he gets off the bus walking 2 batters. So he's walked 2 batters in 4 of the last 5. He's walked 7 batters in the last 2. So that one's juiced up. So I'm going over Cease, 1.5 walks. And, Miami also is a pretty disciplined team. Double-digit walk rate, last 500 plate appearances. Single-digit swing and strike. 29 chase, 88 zone contact, just to kind of complete the matrix. Even though I think, Cecil walk anybody. There might not be 2 batters he wouldn't walk. But now Miami, so I think we've got that one there. But it's a little too juiced up to go alone. So the other half of it, Coop, let's go Austin Gomber. Again, man, you wonder how some of these guys keep getting rolled out every 5 days, but they're there. They're out there, and they're making DFS, people really happy, I guess. So Austin Gomber, same thing. He's had trouble with control. The disciplinary basket really kind of weak at best. 15% K to 9.9 walk, 5 K minus BB, 7.5 swinging strike. Ball rate up near 40%, 19 whiff, 25 O swing. So, I mean, he's walking guys like crazy. San Diego with a double-digit walk rate last 500. So I'm going to need 2 events to happen. I'm going to need a parlay to pair. But, man, I feel pretty strong about Cease and Gomber going over those 2 walks. I see you nodding along. What do you think?
Yeah, that's pretty solid there.
That's that's plus 135, by the way.
Yeah, I like
so,
that.
You're not even putting these 2 together and getting like minus 105 or even plus 105. Man, plus 130, especially the earlier in the day you got them, the better the price is. Especially, I've been kind of lucky, in this life, man. End up in these shares and people kind of watch my stuff. But the downside of it is once I post, geez, we're moving markets.
Yeah.
We are. And again, I haven't even been doing that great, but it just happens. You know what I mean? It happens. It's part of it for right or wrong. So,
well, because the logic makes 100% sense. And I'm looking at that going, yeah, I mean,
I saw that.
Again, it's not a market that I pay attention to. Like I don't want to get on my picks and start going, yeah, we're talking about walks, baby. Because it's not on brand, but I'm not saying you're wrong.
What would be so you know what, Rob? We need to do like an alter ego, like
walking
pitching librarian. Welcome to the pitching librarian and the walk pro, right? Pitching ninja strikes people out. Pitching ninja carries a sword. But pitching librarian, right? He carries a book. It walks players. So, all right, let's get another one. This one, strikeouts. This one I had to pair also, though. So, funny enough, we're going to go back to Adrian Hauser. So, this one is a pair of under 4.5 strikeout props for people following along. So, again, this show was a little bit different, but I hope everyone really did appreciate it. And then after we lay out this one, we'll talk about the giveaway and stuff, Rob. Of course, I don't do a good enough job promoting. I'm so into, like, you and the content. Like, that means a lot more to me than the giveaway. But we'll talk about it. We're going to be using that K-prop, people. Start your calculations. We're trying to figure out the total amount of strikeouts on tonight's slate all together, every game, all 15. Price is Right rules in effect as all. Like, this is if I had to say that, right? I mean, I feel like that's a given, but I might have dated myself with that one. All right, Mr. Rob. Last parlay for me. I'm going under 4.5 strikeouts. The first one I mentioned, like I said, Adrian Hauser. The K, like I said, 14% K, 6% swinging strike, 23 CSW, which I think, is very important to look at. Alex Fast and the pitching list boys gave us CSW, which is kind of funny. It's counterintuitive. It's not counterintuitive. It's improperly named, right? Because CSW, it's actually not called strikes and whiffs. It's actually swinging strike and called strikes. They're not whiff and swinging strike. But anyway, CSW sounds better. But the point being, he's not landing that. Like I usually have followers ask, like, what do we make of a pitcher that has maybe a low K rate but a high CSW? And it's generally off-speed stuff ahead of the count, right? Like a Greinke kind of guy is going to do that. An older pitcher that can throw his off-speed stuff for strikes, that'll be an example. But Hauser not even doing that. I mentioned 16% whiff rate, 91 zone contact. So again, he's not really striking out anybody. And then again, I mentioned Oakland, just not striking out. 21% K rate, top 5 in chase rate, last 500. And then I want to add that with my boy Ben Lively in Cincinnati, which again, when I talked about them being a chance of getting a run out of the building, that's just always they're going to be a chance. The K rate at 25, but I think the underpinnings are not really there. 9% swing strike, 38% ball, 26 O swing, 90 zone contact. Is not really the underpinnings of a 25% K rate, right? Like when you see 25% K rate, that's not really, we're going under that. Yeah, but that single-digit swinging strike, and he's not locking up guys either. 27 CSWs, right around average, if that. He's got the Cardinals, and they just don't really strike out. They make a ton of contact, ton of hard contact, even though the batting average and stuff has not been good. We don't really care as long as they make a little contact. So what do you think? I'm going to go. So, and this one too, I think I got plus money also. Yeah, so it's plus 150 I have. Under 4.5 Hauser plus Lively. Talk about boring.
But it's lively. It can't be boring.
Oh, hi, that is correct.
Hey.
You are correct.
Just waiting for you. Yeah, waiting for you to set me up on that one.
That
No,
was
I like that.
awesome.
Yeah. I like that too. Lively's always tricky for me because I end up seeing him with K's where I'm like watching his stuff going, how's that
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
And is that trend going to continue or not? Like he's just a tough dude for me because he's been doing fairly well.
Yeah, I wasn't, I have to be careful this stuff happens too. Like, so this sounds funny. I was a big Ben Lively fan in like 2017.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because if you're a fan, if you're playing fantasy.
Do you have his jersey?
Stuff, he was supposed to be downright awesome at one point.
Yeah.
Big strikeout guy, big stuff. And then he kind of went overseas, right? He went overseas. You never know what you're going to get when you came back. And a lot of times what we get and it's not, I don't mean to broad brush, but it's interesting, right? Because it becomes like, right, we're not always used to these mixed styles. I remember Blackburn came back and was doing some weird stuff. And sometimes they're like throwing sinkers up in the zone and stuff like that. Do you have anything on the overseas guys?
No, I mean, I think you do. You tend to come back. You experiment a lot with different things. And I think you learn more about yourself in that game. And maybe you're less tied to traditional, like, especially, back in the day, you're less tied to traditional coaching, which told you these things didn't work. And you find these things do work and you come back and all of a sudden you're confusing folks. So there is something to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could make a little more sense of not say of the statistics are the same, but like what they mean in context. Because especially when it comes to fantasy or even betting, that first month, right? That month that we're talking about of like a player's trajectories kind of being determined. We want to be first. But I usually find I kind of I usually just let it go. Like guys off the IL or guys off of international stuff, I normally let it go and just hope you don't get stung. But yeah, it's really tough. I'm always usually cheering. I find myself kind of cheering for those guys. Like Flexen came back and looked pretty good for a little bit. It doesn't seem to last though, right, Rob?
Right. Because the league catches up to you. Like you're coming in, you're not the same guy you were when you left. You're coming in surprising folks with a different but with all the information we have on everybody, eventually everybody catches up to you.
All right, everybody. How awesome was that? Now, let's just talk about the giveaway really quick. Of course, Rob has that beautiful hat on. Shame on me for not wearing my stuff. Look, I have already. I have the winter cap. I have the black. I just bought that demon eyes. When I saw the black on black demon eyed hoodie, I just got that one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And what I love about it, awesome story, because this is the truth. I tagged you when it happened. I'm a bit of a Disney file. Me and my family, we love going to Disney whenever we can get away. And Disney kind of right, transportation hub. You never know people from everywhere. You will see Pitching Ninja stuff. And I have gone out of my way to give those guys a pound and like offer to buy them a beer. I actually swear to God, we were in the Star Wars section. And my wife was like, what are you doing? I was like, I have to. I was like, I absolutely have to right now. Come on. If you see somebody with Pitching Ninja gear on, it's good people, right? They're good people. You just know it. So
I hope so.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Come on, man. Absolutely.
I mean, look at all this stuff.
Yeah. So what we're doing, people, is check out the slate, adding up all the strikeouts. If you want a little cheat sheet, right, you could start with the prop totals. That's a good place to start, and then do your adjusting to go from there, just so you don't feel overwhelmed. Go up to the YouTube channel and comment. And we're going to pick a winner. Whoever's closest, we're going over. I'm going to buy you. Then you get to pick it on me. I don't like when people, it's this hat or that hat. If they want, Rob, I'm going to let them go to your shop and pick out whatever they like, and I'll pay you and you send it to them if they want. You have so many cool editions. The team editions that come out. Some of it, so the international editions are so cool, right? So I want people to be able to pick the very thing that they want the most, because I know for me, some of them really speak to me. So let's just get your eye back on that K leader and see if there's anybody else that you missed that you think that might, like, do you have any long shots back there? Do you think could maybe pull it off for us?
Pull it back up. Let me see if, or I'll pull it up.
I mean,
I don't memorize. Like I just looked at it, right before when I was making my picks.
Well, again, if you're just talking about
I remember Tyler Wells is another guy that I kind of.
Okay, Wells is at 19 to 1.
Yeah.
Yuri Perez is at 60 to 1.
Yeah, so he hasn't had that monster game, and I'm waiting for it because his stuff is absolutely there. Like that
That's
dude will,
right.
yeah. Like could today be the day?
Maybe, and that's you know
Maybe.
what's funny? Um, whoever bet on Merrill Kelly the day he won this thing, no one thought that. I don't think anyone thought that. And now you, like you mentioned, Kelly has like multiple double-digit strikeout games. So right, you can't always just look to the past. You kind of got to. It just man. Sometimes it's the umpires, right? We don't want to admit this stuff. Sometimes it's the
Sure.
umpires. It just happens. So is that? I'll tell you, if that's your long shot, he's at 60-1. Sonny Gray is at 70-1. He's got strikeout stuff. Forrest
And
Sports
Sonny
at
Gray
4.
can put up a ton of Ks. I mean, maybe not today, but is it 70-1
Well,
worth?
how about that? You know what? I think you make a really interesting point before we go, Rob. And that's another. You know what? I should have brought that up also. So when we started, we mentioned you could look for the pitchers that strike people out. You could look for the hitters that strike out. Or I guess this goes to the first one. It's just what pitchers have that ability,
That's
right? Like
generally
which
what,
pitcher
right.
has the ability, and then kind of let the odds speak to you from there, right? Because it feels like, man, Sonny Gray at 70-1. How about Christian Javier is 50-1?
Right. And is
You would have to
Javier
run the
possible?
slate back 50 times for him to strike out 10 guys?
Right. Is it possible for Javier to have an 11 or 12K game? Like he does that. He just does it. Sonny Gray can have a double-digit strikeout game.
Yeah. You know what I think
Yeah.
now, Rob, as we vocalize this stuff, and again, thank you so much for your time, is I think that's probably the spot for edge in this market is we use the team offense to build a barrier that says it can't happen. And I'm thinking about, like, didn't JP France strike out 9 Astros? What do you think the odds were on that? Right? Just astronomical. Astronomical. And it happened. But people said, no, you know what happens in DFS all the time? Oh, this guy's a gas can or he's not very good or whatever. But you know what? The hard contact goes right to the glove those times. The other hard contact ends up foul, couple foul tips, and before you know it, the guy went 6 innings with 8 strikeouts, So
Yeah, I
thank you for
like to
adding some
try to
perspective.
I try to envision what it would look like for this guy to, is this something that I could imagine for somebody to have a 12K game
Right.
against this lineup when they've done it before? And obviously, again, we're not talking about this is a guarantee. This is a Shohei Ohtani plus 240. We're talking about guys with long shot odds, but you can see it. Like you can picture a game where Sonny Gray strikes out 12 today. Like you
Yeah.
can see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to add him. I'm gonna add him to the list. Again, you build, and then last thing, again, when you got the shepherd in the house, we're always trying to help people in that. One of my favorite things, Rob, is to tell them that more bets doesn't mean more total risk. And this is something I've actually had to learn as a handicapper going through my own wins and losses. Because what happens is when you start losing, you tend to pull back. But the thing is, you don't actually want to pull back. You want a robust ticket because you want the most chances to hit. But that doesn't mean, let's say you're a $10 bettor, that doesn't mean $10 in 10 bets is 100. Well, this time it's 20 means 200. No, it means $5 a bet. You understand? Meaning the
Mhm.
risk will be the same, if not lower, and then kind of work that way. So that's another way that this strikeout total thing allows you to get exposure. First of all, again, to the fun police out there, you're getting exposure to the whole slate. And if you have $1 in Descalfani, you all of a sudden bought yourself 5.5 hours tonight, rooting because he's the last guy to go. Again, I think something we probably should have mentioned when we're looking for overs, it probably goes without saying, is to make sure you check those pitch totals, right? Make sure guys are throwing 85 pitches, right? We want to make sure that their workload is
100%.
placed. Yeah. We're getting to that point now where it kind of goes without saying, but we were coming from a point where I felt really bad. Some people I really love and respect on Twitter were putting out strikeout props with guys, and I'm like, I have him for it's not like I don't have him for strikeouts, but I only have him for 68 pitches thrown or 71 pitches thrown.
That's what makes me nervous about Glass now, obviously.
Yeah, great call.
Yeah.
Great call.
Like, is he one of my favorite guys to watch? And is he a dominant starter?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is he likely to go to 90 pitches today?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's a better chance he strikes out 8 through 5 than there is him throwing 90 pitches.
Right.
Yeah.
And is 8 through 5 going to get you the win today? It's probably
not.
It's not.
So wow, everyone, that's a really great place to wrap was. Rob, again, I appreciate you, dude. That it's not just give information and it's like people go do stupid stuff with it and I don't care about it. It's listen, here's the information, but you got to be careful with it, right? Here's how way to use it responsibly. And again, people do not bet the Ohtani to win the slate. Bet his alt prop over instead, because again, if you look back, it's going to take you double digits. So if you find, I bet you bottom dollar over 9.5 strikeouts is better than 240. Right?
Yeah. So what's Otani's? So I'm saying
240.
11.
He's 240 to lead the slate.
Say 11 wins today. What 11 Ks win today? That's
I don't know if I don't have it. I don't have all props in real time, but I guarantee it's plus 240.
Yeah, I would
say his prop was 7.
Yeah, or 8.
Yeah, 120. I guarantee it 9.5 is 240 at least, And if anything, even if it costs you 10 cents, you wouldn't mind. Because what if you get 11 and the winner is 12? Now you're like, oh, you really want to, step in front of the train.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just pulling it up right here so I don't not tell any lies. We got
Brian Rose, dude. Listen, best comment section in the game. Yeah. Brian Rose says 10 plus is 240. So 10 strikeouts is 240.
Yeah, and I'm saying and 11, which I think wins, is 450.
Yeah, so there you go. There's a perfect example of how. Do your due diligence, people. Don't rush to click the bet button. I know I do that sometimes because, again, we worry about prices moving. But make sure it's the best bet. Because, again, right here, we are talking about one event or one theoretical event with like 6 different ways to approach it. And not all of them are going to win. Right? So, and I think that's the most important thing is that because I remember I did this whole study when I was trading about because people are like, oh, everything's about direction. People think you have to guess the direction. In sports, people think you have to guess the winner. When in all this stuff, it's more about like handling the risk than it is like anything else, Because again, I could tell you who the winner is, but if I don't tell you how much to bet, are you going to make it through the downturn? And that always is what gets people caught up, right? So, Bob, thank you. Just a million. All right, let me just recap the props we did do in between this melee of pitching knowledge. Hopefully, we're under 4.5 strikeouts on Hauser plus Lively. We're under 1.5 walks on Garrett Whitlock. We're under 1.5 walks on Adrian Hauser. This is the world's most boring ticket of all time. Over 1.5 walks for Cease and Gomber. Well, you know what, Rob? I'll tell you what, brother. I've kind of made my bones in this business betting on F5, but now I've left such a mark. And I say proudly, although it sucks. I've left such a mark on it. The books have fought back. They don't post them. They change their pricing. They change the run lines. They change the timing. It has changed. So that same kind of porous approach is now I'm like, I'm not going to be too proud to look for edge. I've been making these things. And why chase a general market when you think you have edge? So
this has been great for me because I love being exposed to kind of a whole different mindset. I love the way you think about it, bringing a trader's knowledge and diversification and looking at different edges. I appreciate it. And I want to learn too. Like, I'm not saying I'm an expert in this space. I'm an expert at watching pitching and telling you why somebody's filthy. Am I an expert at picking stuff? I'm hopefully getting there. So I want to learn from guys like you.
Get better. All about that process, all about that approach.
Yeah.
Make sure you follow Pitching Ninja. Obviously, Rob's the damn GOAT. Seriously. Just stop it. Ridiculous, right? What are we talking about? What are we talking about here? For crying out loud, people. Now, make sure you follow him on Twitter and all the stuff. In particular, really, the YouTube interviews with these pitchers, dude. I learned so. It's weird the type of learning. It's like a higher learning, right? It's not. Don't get me wrong. I don't watch it and I go to bet on that, right? It's not that. It's your type of teaching. Right, it's funny. I forgot my favorite phrase. This show we call it. It's the restaurant where the chefs eat. And you're the teacher of the teacher, right? So hat tip to you. And again, I wear that proudly. That handicappers and the stat guys, we've got quant guys in the comment section. People come here. They come here because they know that we care. We know that I don't mind to be wrong. They know that I'm out here doing the work, right? Death taxes, sun rising in the east. Bears making dookie in the woods and me up before the crack of dawn to bring you this show because it means the absolute world to me. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Make sure you're following Call to the Pen HQ. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. Make sure you put those guesses for the strikeout props. I want to see some healthy guesses in there. Then you go pick Rob's, your favorite thing on his site. Rob, is it pitchingninja.com?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Of course it is, from the branding wizard himself. Rob, you are just the coolest. You're the coolest cucumber in the fridge, man. I love hanging with you, man. So that's it. You follow me on Twitter. You hit us up. And again, if you want the betting stuff, hit me up on Twitter. I'll spend the rest of the day hanging with people if we want to do betting stuff. Again, I really wanted to get the pitching knowledge and Rob's approach. And now we hit you with a little decent exposure, right? I'm guilty of decent exposure with the walk prop. So that'll do it, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. Jeff L, OPMG, all the DJs in the comments, Arthur D, all you guys, I really appreciate you all for spending your time with us as we spin around this flying rock for the universe. Thank you so much. Enjoy the games. Enjoy your day. When we're done with the book, enjoy that pay. And remember, when you work this hard, it feels a lot less like luck, yo. Peace.